Come da porta picchita va bene, se tu la parla miezza americano, quando si fa l'amore sotto la luna, come da bene in capo di I love you, papà l'americano.
Hi, this is Jordan from It's So Pastiche, and today we're going to be making cupcake wrappers. That's one of the most expensive things that you would pay for if designing a dessert table, and so oftentimes people want to know how to make it themselves, but they don't know how. So I just did a dessert party recently, and the baker of the cupcakes asked me how I did my wrappers, and I told her I would be happy to share it with her. So I would also like to share it with you. So here's what you will need. I have a cupcake, a store-bought cupcake. So you can use a store-bought cupcake, a homemade cupcake, it doesn't matter. I have some score tape. I prefer score tape to double-sided tape because what I learned early on was using double-sided tape, I would place the cupcakes on the dessert platter and walk away and look up and they came loose in the back. So the score tape gives more of a permanent hold, and it's just easier to deal with when you're trying to seal the wrapper. You can place it on the wrapper, peel it back, and it works for you. You need a regular pair of scissors. You need a scissor with the edge that you want for your cupcakes. For example, I want the scalloped edge, so I am using the Fiskars scallop edge scissor. You need a pencil. I am using a marker so that you can see what I'm doing here. I didn't want to use a pencil because it would be a little too light, but you need a pencil so that you can trace your template. You need a cardstock to use as your template for the wrapper, because once you make it, you'll have to trace it as many times as wrappers you need. So you want to make sure you have something that's going to be durable. Paper can sometimes tear midstream, and you don't want that to happen. And then you need the paper that you will actually be using to make the wrapper. You can use cardstock, regular paper, gift wrapping paper, scrapbook paper, any kind of paper you can come up with. Anything you like, you can use that to make a wrapper. If you're doing a dessert table for, let's say, a reporter or a journalist, you may use newspaper because you want to have the news feel to it. So it's up to you what kind of paper you want to use. Now I have this contact paper. This is Contact brand clear, aka transparent contact paper that I'm going to use for this cupcake because this cupcake is pretty oily. So what happens sometimes when you put a wrapper on the outside of the liner of the cupcake is the oil seeps through and it comes through the paper. So I'm going to show you a tip as to how to not have that happen to you because it's not attractive when it's on your dessert table. I have a couple of napkins because it does get messy. These are some moist cupcakes. And I found when I was doing a template earlier that it just made a mess. So you need some napkins. And I also have a wet towel that I'm going to use to wash my hands. You just want to be prepared because you don't want to have to leave the process once you start. You want to be able to keep moving. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is get us started. Let me get everything out of our way. I think I'm going to use this paper because I like it better. These are red velvet cupcakes, or well, we'll decide by the end. I'm not sure. So, first things first, take your cupcake. You want to take the liner off of the cupcake because this is what's going to be used to create your template. Sit your cupcake to the side. Now, this is what you have left. You have a cupcake liner filled with cupcake stuff. You can eat that if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. So now, let me show you how you need to cut it. You take your regular pair of scissors. You're going to cut straight down to the circle. And you'll stop when you get to the line where the circle is. And basically what you're going to do is cut this circle out. Okay? Now, don't worry if you're not a perfect cutter. I am a horrible cutter. Because this is very forgiving. So it doesn't matter if it's crooked or if it's not straight. Just cut. Cut as best as you can. We'll fix it in the end. So, I just cut out this circle. I'm going to put that to the side. This is what I have left. And excuse my mess, okay? I told you this gets messy, so just bear with me. This is what you have left. Notice the shape. It's shaped like a horseshoe. And when I very first started doing cupcake liners, I actually traced it this way and tried to put it around my cupcake. And let's just say I'm glad nobody was watching because I didn't look too smart. All right. The goal for this horseshoe is to get it to be a semicircle, a half circle. If you can get it to be a half circle, you're almost guaranteed for it to fit your cupcake. Okay, so I'm going to move my regular scissors. And now what I'm going to do is begin making a semicircle. So I'm just going to pull it out a bit, and then I'm just going to make pleats where they need to be made in order for the semicircle to emerge. So look here where we see a natural pleat area. This is a natural pleat area here. We've almost got it. So I'm just going to arch it a little bit more and see where I need to put a pleat. This is where it gets messy. So this is where you're going to need that paper towel and where you're going to need your wet towel. So just make sure you have that. So I'm pleating this liner. I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to press with my fingers just to get it pretty straight. Now, you see we have an arc, a slight arc, no longer a horseshoe. That's pretty good. I'm going to wipe my hands with my wet towel now just to get this mess off and try my best to clear this without making too much of a mess. Okay, so what we are going to do is lift this up and put it on your cardstock that you are using for your template. I'm using blue cardstock because I want to make sure you can see it. If I use white or cream, it'll blend too much in with the tablecloth. So I'm going to just hold that there because this is where I'm going to trace. So let me get my marker. In this case, you would be getting your pencil. Now, this gets tricky. You're just going to have to do the best you can. There's no technique to tracing. Just trace the best you can. But the goal is to trace it as is. So I'm going to put my hand here. Now, your trace does not have to be perfect. Because I'm using a scalloped edge scissor, I am going to make it a little wider than the top of the liner. This marker doesn't work. Looks like I'm going to have to use pencil. Okay, so you make your line a little wider, just a little bit, than the liner. Now, remember from the beginning, I told you this is a very forgiving technique. What that means is your tracing does not have to be perfect. None of it has to be perfect because you're going to fix it all in the end. I've got it traced. So I'm going to move this now. I can put this off to the side. I'm done with it. Unless I have to redo it. But for now, I'm done with it. This is what I have left. And I believe you can see that. There we go. See, my tracing's not great, so don't worry. Now we're going to cut. Now, because we want the scallop edge, the top is going to be the scallop. The rest of it is going to be cut with your regular scissors. So you're only going to use the scallop scissor across the top. You can use pinking shears, any kind of shape you want for your scissors, but mine just happens to be scallop. So I'm just going to cut now. Now, because I'm using the scallop scissor, I'm just going to cut outside of my line so I can get more control of my paper. This is 12 by 12. It's a lot to manage. So now I'm going to cut the sides. I'm going to cut the bottom with the regular scissor. Now, the thing about this liner, it does not cover the bottom of the cupcake. It only covers the side. It goes around the side of the cupcake. The bottom is open, so the bottom is still the liner. So I have cut out everything except the top, because I am going to use my scallop scissor for that. So now I'm taking my scallop scissors and I am cutting on the line. Make sure you cut on the line. Again, if you happen to go above it or below it, don't fret. It really does not have to be perfect. And I'm not saying that because I settle for less. I'm saying that because I'm a perfectionist and it's tried and true, because when I got to the end, it was still a perfect wrapper. Okay? This is what I have left. A scallop top with a straight bottom and straight side. Now you'll notice again I have a high area here, but we're going to hope that it works out. I'm taking a cupcake with a liner because this is what you will be wrapping. So you're going to take this wrapper, and when you go around, you'll find it fits perfectly. When you go around, you'll find it fits perfectly. So what I'm going to do now is take my score tape. I like score tape because it tears. You can just rip a piece off. You don't have to worry about anything sticking. And you rub it on your wrapper end, any end, because you can stick it at either end. And I'm going to peel it off. peel the backing off so that I can have the adhesive there ready to go. My hands have cupcake on them, so this is not cooperating fully. Okay, so I've got my score tape on here. I don't know if you can see that. So when I wrap my cupcake and bring this around, my score tape is there, and all I do is rub it down a little bit and it's ready to go. So this is your cupcake wrapper. Now this is the messy version because, again, I didn't wipe my hands. I wanted to try to get this in time enough for you to see it and for it not to be too long. So this is what the wrapper looks like. So this is a good template for you. I'm going to now do this on the paper that I want to actually cover the cupcake with. So I'm going to take this. I decided I'm going to use this. I'm going to take this, and what I'm going to do is put it on the back. Now, because we have an oily cupcake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my contact paper. Now, I called the maker of Contact brand and asked them if this paper was food safe. And they told me, yes, it is food safe as long as you use the clear because it has no ink, therefore no lead in it. So when I peel the wrapper off of the contact paper, what I'm going to do is stick it onto the paper that I'm using. Now ideally what you want to do is trace your wrapper first and then put the contact paper down and then cut. But I'm going to go ahead and stick mine now just because I've done this before. So I'm going to take my pencil. Now the reason this is on the back is because this is the part that will be against the liner. So when the oil comes through the liner, it's hitting against something that's actually waterproof. So it won't come through the other side of the liner. If you put it on the outside of the paper, it will still show because the oil can bleed through the back and you'll see it through the front, okay? So I'm going to use this same template. What I usually do though, after I know that it fits, I go back and I trace this one once again, which, let's just use that one. Let's just use it. I'll just use this again. Now I hate that my Sharpie's not working. I'm going to see how well this pencil works on this contact paper. Oh, it works good enough for me to see. So here we go. I'm making it a little larger than the cupcake liner. I'm tracing. I'm doing a horrible job tracing, but hey, doesn't have to be perfect, even for us perfectionist types. I'm going to wipe my hands because it makes quite a mess. Now, because I use contact paper, I can wipe that too. That's underneath there. So what I'm going to do is take my regular scissor, remember, and I'm just going to remove all of this extra so that I don't have to navigate that while I'm trying to get a good cut. And I can use this now for something else. So I'm going to cut my side. I'm going to cut my bottom. I'm going to cut my other side. Now I'm going to take my scallop scissors and I'm going to cut. Now the reason these Fiskars scissors work well for this for me is because they're metal. I have some other scallop edge scissors that are plastic. Take it from me, don't try it. It doesn't work too well. Look at what we've got. We've got a wrapper with a scallop edge, beautiful pattern that we are now going to use for our cupcake. Now this comes out a little long, but you don't have to cut it until you get it around your cupcake, and that way you know it fits perfectly, so don't cut it before you put it on. This score tape, I just broke off a piece. I'm putting it on the end of the contact paper, and I'm going to then peel it off. Peel off the paper part so that it leaves the adhesive for me to adhere the rest of the wrapper. Here we go with my cake-filled hands again. There we go. So I'm going to move this to the side. So my score tape is here on the edge. Now I'm going to take my cupcake with the liner, and I'm going to then make sure you fold the end with the score tape last, because your score tape needs to adhere to the other side. So I'm going to wrap it around, and it gets kind of tricky because you're using both of your hands. So what you'll probably do is get it on there first and then tweak it later. So I'm going to sit it down just so I can have the bottom against the table. I wrap it around I get it exactly where I want it around my cupcake. Now it's up to you how high you want this to come around your liner. Some people like it high, some people like it right at the edge. I don't like it to cover the icing. I feel like that's a part of the artistry, and it should stay intact for people to see all of this beauty that the baker put into the product. So I don't like it to come too high. So I'm okay with a little bit of wrapper showing if you look over the top, but not if you look along the side. Okay, so I'm going to just tweak, 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 and there it is. Here is our beautiful cupcake in its beautiful wrapper, and this is how you place it on your dessert tray. So that's the end of my tutorial. I do hope this is helpful for you. It definitely is helpful for me. I wish you much success, and if you create some beautiful dessert tables, I'd love to hear about them. Post some links down in the comments. Thank you.
Come da può capire chi te va bene, se tu la parla miezza americano, quando si fa l'amore sotto la luna, come te viene in capo di I love you, papà l'americano.